Hello everyone. So we are here today for a very interesting topic. So before getting into the topic, it is important to say that this video is actually done in collaboration with Juveria, one of our amazing UiPath MVPs. I don't have her here today in the video to discuss this, but um, there's an article done by her on this same topic that actually explains the each and every step in very detail along with screenshots so that we can easily follow the content that we are covering here in the video. So the link for this article is actually available in the description of the video. So make sure you go there and have a look at the article as well, as it will be helpful to properly understand what we are going to show today. So today's video is actually about integrating different other platforms with UiPath through API. So to make it a little bit more interesting, I have thought about using a new chatbot platform. This platform is not new; it has been there for quite a while now. But we are going to show how the chatbot platform, which is called a SnatchBot, is integrating with UiPath through API calls. So the idea behind here this is, as you have noticed, the platform we had before for chatbots, chatbot.uipath.com, it is actually going to be deprecated soon. So I've been researching on this, what other platforms we can use to integrate with UiPath easily. So the challenge I had is, and this is some requests that I got from the community. For someone who don't know a lot of coding, how can they easily integrate the chatbots they're building without really writing a lot of code? So I have been researching on that, and I found a nice tool that we can use to create our API calls and easily integrate with UiPath. So that's what we are going to discuss today. So just to give you an idea about the forms that we'll be using, we have UiPath, Orchestrator, and have the chatbot platform. It's called SnatchBot. I'll go into detail later. And how the two platforms are going to be communicating is actually another tool called Interchromat. So the concept for this video is we'll be using a chatbot to capture certain information and add that information in the UiPath queue, in the queue in the orchestrator, and that should trigger a process to update specific. So what we have used for this is actually the Acme test UiPath.com. So in this page, we have a bank account creation page. So if you go to the home page, from here on the bank and add a bank account. So the information we plan to capture the chatbot is actually this information, and that information we send to the queue. The queue will actually trigger a process that we have already published here to update this page. So it's a very simple process. This over here. Basically, what it does is it just gets the information from the queue using get transaction item and update the values in the page. So these things we already know. So the interesting part here is how we can build this out and how we can do this integration without writing a lot of code. Okay, so we have done the workflows over here. So we'll focus on the other stuff. So I'll start with the SnatchBot platform. This is a chatbot creation tool which we can use for free. It has its own paid version as well, but you can do quite a lot of stuff in the free version. This is also a very to build a simple chatbot. And over here, this is the SnatchBot. This is the Interchromat, which we'll be using to integrate platform. So what we can do here is we can build that connection using API calls easily to pass the information from one system to another. This also has its own paid version, but you can see in the free version we can uh, do up to 1,000 operations. 1,000 means operations means single action. We'll get into the details. So you can use the free version to some good research and practice. Cool. So just like in Google Dialogflow, we'll use this time another tool called SnatchBot to expand our capabilities on different technology. Okay, so all you need to do is just create an account here in and sign up, and you will get this. I'm not going to show that part, so just show what we need to do. Yeah. So once you have the account created, once you signed up, this will be your screen. All you need to do is just to create a robot. Go to my robots. Already I have a couple of things here, but you can easily click on this create bot option, and there are different templates to create our own. So I'll be creating a blank this. I will say this is uh, the banker process because uh, it's on the about the bank. I will say banker, and we can upload a small image. Let me find a good image. So I just downloaded the image and just click on upload and downloads image, put it over here and maybe give a simple description. Uh, Create it like this and click on create. This will create a robot for us. If you have followed the chatbot video on Google Dialogflow, um, you basically had to create different intent to continue the interaction. So you have to do the same thing over here. So here we call it interaction. So we can build our own interaction to continue the conversation and get the required information for us. It's easy. So usually the very first one is the welcome interaction. So let's create a new interaction over here by clicking on add new interaction. So there are a lot of options for so just to keep it simple, let's start with the bot statement, a simple statement. So in this video, we'll be basically using this bot statement and this API call to do the API call to connect with you. So I'll be using this bot statement. Select it and give it a name. I will say welcome. Click on it. That will show up over. And the next thing is we just need to provide a message, what you want to show in the conversation. So you can say, since our task is to just create an account, let's assume this is a bank and this chatbot is supporting different options in a bank or different functions in a bank. So try to configure it in that way. So the bot message can be I am bank of bot. This can be a simple message that you can be providing the user. And you can also do simple interactions. So you might not be able to, you can type, but also you can give some options to click instead of typing. That can do under connection. Connections, how we are going to do your quick reply is you're not typing, you'll be giving some quick reply. So this way it can create a simple option where you type that click on it and so let's give two options. One is our scenario and bank account and let's press enter and it says do you want to create a connection. I will explain this later and for now I will just say so. That option shows up over here like this. You need to press enter. And apart from this, I will also add another one to build our use case. For say loan application, since it's a bank, can cancel. So we have two options. And in this case, I will just disable the what happens here is if you click on this small icon, here you see the chat option that we had, same thing that we typed, and we refresh, we should get the two options that we added over. That's how we build our interaction. Okay, so we are not worried about any loan applications. We only focus on bank account creation. So we'll use this button to build our next interaction. Once we select this option, the chatbot should ask the required information, like uh, the first name, last name, city, all this information. So let's quickly build that. So what we have to do next is we need to create another interaction. By clicking on this, I will select for statement again, and I will just give the name, keep it easy to read, add a first name. So in this interaction, we'll be trying to capture the first name of the user. I'll be clicking on add, and here we have the second interaction. So just like before, in the bot message, let's provide the message that we want to say. We can say is provide name. Okay, so how to get into this interact? That is what we are going to do now. We'll go back to welcome in interaction under connections, close this, Here we have conditional connection. This is how we combine these two. Click on add connection. And what we need to do is, if the user selects this option, we should go into this interaction. That's what we are trying to do now. So our condition should be, click here if the response to this interaction, which is for the welcome interaction, because these two options are available in the welcome interaction. So we say if the response to this interaction uh, and what should be there, whether it contains any, whether it's matching anything or whether it's begin with something or ending with something. Well, it contains a whole word, and that word is add bank account. We can provide that and click on this plus. So this also has the capability to find synonyms for us. We'll not go into that. No? We'll just click cancel. So you can see if the response to this interaction contains the whole word, which is add bank account, then go to our add account first name. This will actually show all the available. As of now, we only have one. So let's click on that. And we have built the connection. You can see the connection is in green color now. And if we actually test it, let's refresh. And if I click on this option, it will actually show our next message. Please provide your first name. Cool. So now you know how to build the interaction between different. Okay, so in the next one, this is the second new thing. So here the user will be typing his first name, and we should be able to capture that. So for capturing, we'll be using different attributes to capture that information. These attributes can be created, captured easily. So the idea here is usually the output or the user input for this interaction is captured in the following interaction. So for example, our next interaction should be to extract the last name. So in the last name interaction, response for the first name, it's always going one behind. So let's try to create another interaction so that you can easily understand. So I'll be clicking on add new interaction, first step. And over here, let's do the renaming in the same way. Add account. And this is for the last name. Add it. Okay. So in here, um, I'll be using a new option. So let's give the bot message. I'll just like it is by the and yeah. So along with this, let's go to configure, and this is where we connect the data that you type to different attributes. So how to do that is actually, let me go back to bot message again and show you how to do that. So in here, let me add a space to capture the previous response, what we added over here. It is done by using this prior responses. Clicking on this and you select this response text. Click on that and it will create a small text portion here. So basically what we are saying is response to interaction equals ID. This ID is actually what you. So if you want to capture the response, the previous intent or the interaction in here, you just need to provide the ID of the previous interaction, which is the ID, and add it over. So I can say 2776. This is the ID. So before creating the attribute, I will show you how. And let's build a connection between these two passwords. We now did the first name, and under connections, this time we also need to add a conditional connection. But this time we don't have a specific value, just like before. So what you can do is, you can say response to this interaction. You can just provide some validation. You can say, usually a name does not contain any special character. And so you can say, response to this interaction doesn't contain any. And maybe you can add some special character, like the dot for it. Add the dot, and it's here. You can add any number of special add sign. So I will just keep these two. So the idea here is if this interaction doesn't contain any special characters, then we consider it as valid. And then we will move to the next interaction is the last name. Yep. So we can search and it's okay. Yep. And yep. So let's see. And this is also connected. So let's see how our bot message looks like. Go in here, refresh, add account. And for the first name, I will just say a hero. And here you go. Please provide the last name. And it shows the output or the response I gave for this particular. That's how you capture a response. And this is the exact same thing that you need to use to add this value to an attribute. In other words, a variable. Okay, so I don't want to show it actually here. So, and go to figure. We can create any attribute. So this attribute key is more like the variable name. So I will say for this, the value is coming from this particular piece of code. It's the same thing I had in the bot message. So I'll click on plus so that we capture the value to the first name attribute. So this is a new attribute that we created. Cool. So as of now, you know how to create different interactions, connect the interaction, and also to capture the value. So let's quickly keep on doing this for the remaining information that we need, the last name, city. Okay, so we again need another interaction. This time what we need is the last name and we need the city. And in the city, we'll be capturing response for the last name. Get the idea. Okay, so city. So we have that. And in here, let's go to the bot message. And we will say provide a city. And in this interaction, from the last name, we'll build the connection, add connection. If the response to the last name does not contain any special characters, just like before, we can use the same approach. We're adding a dot and also sign. Then go to add account city. So we build the connection, and for this last name, we have the first name done. In the city, we have the bot message, and we'll do the configuration for city attribute. And we will say city, and same response should come here, but this time ID is different. So in here we'll be capturing the last name, so I need to provide this ID. So usually the first few numbers are 27717 plus two numbers because change it 59, capture that. Oh, this is not city. This is the last time. So you need to basically follow the same thing for the remaining interaction. I will quickly do that. You just pause the video here, quickly do that, and start from there so that you don't need to add the boring screen for a long time until I configure all. Okay, so I have built the interactions. We have the first name, last name, phone, image, and the number of dependents in short form NOD. And I have mapped the attribute just like before. So once you, so let me show it. Click on it. So you can see how it is. Last name is the, so just give some dummy values. Number of dependents, say one. Yeah, so it asks the same thing because from here, not going anywhere. So the next thing is, once you have actually provided this information, we'll just add another interaction just to ask whether everything is okay to proceed. So let's build a new interaction over here, and you can say confirmation, for example. And in this one, and actually even show the values that you have extracted. You can actually do that by configuring the bot message. Um, the values in here, you can say, and do that same previous response. Go here, text for the ID, you can say first name is this one. 77116. Let a copy it and instead of the number for the last name it's the next one is the phone number 7. For this one you can provide 6. I'm just typing this ID you see here. For the age 67. Lastly, that one 68. Okay, so let's quick check over here. This we will add the quick response again. So just to say whether it's all good to proceed or not. We can say yes, and these are the two options. Along with this, you can also so let's try this. We'll also disable this. So I'm going to refresh, add account, provide the same information. Address, let's say. And now we should, oh, sorry, I didn't build the, if here, response to this interaction contains, doesn't contain, just add a special. Then go to meshing. We'll quickly do this before that. One. So we should now see. Yep. These are the output. The same thing that we inputted. And it's asking whether we are okay to proceed. So once we click yes, now what should happen is we should build the connection between these two, the SmashBot thing and also with the UiPath to actually insert this data into a queue. That queue in our orchestrator, we have built the queue already. We go there, my orchestrator, the demo folder. If you go to queues, this is the queue that I plan to use. So I want to insert all that captured information into this queue, which will trigger a specific process as soon as it is entered. So let's see how we can do that. We'll first uh, add another interaction. And this time we are not going to use the bot statement, we'll be using the JSON API. Because this time we'll be calling our API to do that. Select this and provide a name like search queue. And you can see a different interaction here. And so once the connection is, and the response to this interaction contains a whole word, which yes. I don't need any synonyms. That's the case. Going to insert into queue. The flow is complete. In here, this option is a little bit different. So in the bot message, instead of that message thing we had earlier, in here we have a URL. This is where our API address is going to be. And if any error occur, you can provide that info here. Basically, the error response could be a string. Can say something wrong is better for now. So how to build this API address and how to get this URL is what we are going to do now through Interchromat Platform. This is the interesting part. So before we go into Interchromat, let's also add this attribute over here to the things that we created along the way. Because we'll be using these attributes to pass that information into the API and add the items to the queue. We'll first add these attributes. So there will be a few other first name, last name things which will be used by this SmashBot platform. So we are not using any of that. So this is our first name. And let's keep adding the attributes. So once you add it, it will be disabled. First name, phone, email, age, and have I captured this? Oh, this thing is over here, but I think I have not added it to attribute. This should be happening here. And let's quickly do that. ID. And that should show up over the age. Have it. These are the attributes. So now let's look at Interchromat platform. See how we can build this interaction between UiPath and. So this is our dashboard. Again, in here you can sign up for free through interchromat.com. So I have created my free account, and this is how it looks like. So you have some free operations to take care of. So what these operations mean, whenever the process runs, each and every activity that we use inside the flow that we build here will be considered as operation. Okay, so the good thing about this platform is we will not be using any, we will not be coding anything to build our API. It will be like a drag and drop interface. We'll be building a simple flow to get the data from SmashBot, convert it into the required formats, pass it into orchestrator. So, so the workflows that we build here are called scenarios. So the first thing we have to do is create a new scenario. Let's click on this, create a new scenario, and we'll be getting a blank page where we can add new items by clicking on this plus sign. So to do this, we are actually creating a webhook. So there will be a lot of activities to create a webhook inside this. So you can easily find those activities by clicking plus sign always. So let's click on the plus sign and find the first activity that we need to use. So I'll be searching hook. And here you can see there are a lot of activities. We'll focus on click on webhooks. And I need to create a custom webhook. I'll be selecting that. And for this one, you can provide any name. So basically, and click on add, provide my name and add item. Don't have any IP restrictions, so I'll just click on save. So once you do that, here you will be getting a URL. This is the URL that we will be using in the SmashBot, where you had to add that URL. You can copy the URL by clicking this and go to SmashBot, and here you can paste it. So this is the flow, and this is how it will interact with the Interchromat. And let's see how we can get these attributes into the Interchromat flow. So now over here, you can click on OK. So we'll click on it here again. So now there's an option called redetermine data structure. So I'll be clicking on this one. So it will be waiting for some response from somewhere. What I can do is, while this is on this mode, since we have the URL, and quickly run this flow again so that this information will be passed into a webhook. So let me quickly refresh, start providing some values. City is Colombo. Just provide some number. And just say 1. And yep, so everything looks good. And I will just click on yes, so that this part of the workflow will continue. So don't worry about this. It will say something went wrong and try again later. It's because we are not returning anything yet. But if we go into Interchromat, you can see successfully determined. You click on OK. Yeah, so we should have all the metadata of the workflow. The next thing is, so we have the webhook created now. So now what we need to do is, we basically need to get the authentication from UiPath. That is usually done by creating a data structure for that and also doing a simple API call. So this authentication, you can think of it as the login for the UiPath platform. Just like we used to log in through the web, through this, because there's no one else to go to a web application and log in, it has to do it by itself. So for that, we need to build that authentication action over here. So in the documentation, we have a simple authentication JSON that we need to use. So I have all these things here in this notepad. These things will also be available in the article that's given. So in this JSON, basically, we need to provide the grant type as refresh token, the client ID, and the user key. So this is the structure that we need to build. So from now on, we'll be dealing with a couple of JSON strings. So all these are JSON. So all you need to know is to work with this JSON, you basically need to create a structure to support this format. So just think of it as a data table, for example. In UiPath, we used to create data tables using build data table, right? Just like that, in here, we need to build a data structure to support this particular format. So that's what we are going to do now. So you can just copy paste. So this thing will be provided to you in the article as well. So you can copy it from there. So let's build the data structure. So I'll just copy this thing and go to Interchromat. To create a data structure, I need to click on the plus sign so that the new item comes. I will be searching for JSON. In JSON, create JSON. This is the one that we need to use. Basically, we'll be creating the structure. So we need to give a name for the data structure. Click on add. In here, let's say get authentication request. And the good thing about this is you don't need to create each and every field. You can click on this generator, paste the JSON string that I copied as it is, and click on save so that the structure will be created for you. And just click on save. So these are the values. So let's click on OK for now. Nice these things a bit. And let me also rename. So by right clicking on this, I can rename it. Add just to keep it clear. So now what we have to do is we need to provide the values for this. Click on this one. The grant type. Okay, so by clicking on this here, you can see all the values that's returned by this. And you can see all the attributes, the age, city, and everything. So that's what we did earlier. That's how easy it is to use this, to actually use this. So we'll use this later. So for now, for the grant type in our format here, the grant type has to be refresh token. I will just copy it, paste it here, and the client ID and the refresh token. These two are actually the client ID and the user key in the orchestrator. So where you can find this is actually, you go to orchestrator, you need to go to the cloud platform, home, and admin. In here you can see the API access option. So in there you will see these two options, the client ID and the user key. So you just need to go in there, copy that and paste it in the for these two. Just paste the value just like you did over here. So I will pause the video for a second to copy the values and then we'll continue. Okay, so I have added the values to this. I didn't add that because otherwise I'll be needing to mask the video. Okay, so that information is now provided. So it's easy. The next step, so now you have the required information to do the authentication. So in addition to that, we also need few more things. So now what we need to do is get the authentication confirmation from UiPath. So we need to use another activity. This, click on the plus sign. This time you need to select I will be searching make request, or else you can search for HTTP. So in here, there are a couple of options. So we basically need to make a request. In other words, request for the authentication. So we'll be using this first option. The request, and these are the information it needs to do that. So for the URL, I need to get it this down. All this is provided in the article using this. URL is this one, and the method. So we'll be posting the information to get the authentication done. But there are different options. If you want to get some information, you'll be using get. Or if you want to do something, you need to use the post. There are a few other things as well. These are the mostly used in our scenario. So I will just use the post option. And for the headers, we need to provide two values, which is our tenant name, which you can find from the orchestrator. So let's click on add a header. And for the name here, you need to type this particular value. So this is how the UiPath accepts. X-UiPath tenant name. For the value, you can go to this one, go to the orchestrator. So in the URL of the orchestrator, you have the logical address and the tenant name, which is the second. I will just copy the one before the orchestrator. This is my one. I will just copy it and paste it over. and add. We have added the first one. The next one is what kind of content we are passing. We can say content dash type. For the value part, we can say application slash JSON. That's it. And for the body type, we can say raw. And the content or the request content, yeah, the content type is application JSON again. Because we are working with JSON, the request content is the data structure that we built over here. So how to get that is click here and look at this. This is the output that's coming from this one, create authentication request, which is a JSON string. This is what we need to use here. So just click on it and it will add the value. So it's easy. So whatever you have over here, the structure that you build, the information you provided, the like the client ID, the other information, all that will be provided in this JSON string. And just click on OK. We have built the first request. And let's rename this. Get, I will say, get authentication. So we have done three things. Or you can say get authentication. Now what I need to do is I need to run this flow to get the output of this, because without running we cannot see the output. So what I have to do is let's save it and click on this run. So it will be waiting for us to provide the information. You can see it is waiting for data. So what you can do is go to SmashBot again, do the same thing on it. Let's quickly do it. Um, we'll just provide some info. And let's click on yes. You will get this message, don't worry about it. In here, you can see the process has actually completed, and you can also see the output. You can see one, here are the values that we provided in the chat. And this is the creation of the JSON. And in the authentication thing, here we can see the input that we built, the request, and the output. So in the output, if you look at this data section, here you can see the access token and a couple of other information. We actually got the access. Good. So now we need to use this information for our next step. So this is actually given to us as a string, as you see. It's a long string. So what I need to do is I need to convert this into a more usable format so that I can use it just like the other attributes that you saw, like these stuff. So how to do that is by parsing. So in normal .NET, what we do is to convert some value into a specific format, we use the typecasting or the parsing, right? So it's kind of the same thing. We do it JSON parsing over here. So, so under favorites, you will see the JSON option. If not, just click on this plus sign and search for JSON and use the parse JSON. And here again, you need to provide a data structure. So when you parse, you need to say to which format you need to parse it. And that has to be defined earlier. So what you can do is you can build that structure just like this. Um, so I will just provide a name for it. Oh, we'll say get open and just click on save. I will not generate it for now. Click on save and provide the JSON string that we get from this post. So we don't need all this information. We only need the data portion. So I will just add it over here. Okay. And I will just rename it to show the actual value. So I will just say rename as JSON token. Right. Okay. So the next thing is we have that information. Now we'll just create a simple um, yeah, simple activity over here so that we can actually create a simple one. Just something for now. Yeah, so we basically need to run this, get it started. So let me delete it and basically run it again. Let's click on run anyway. And I'll be going to my code platform, do a quick run again. I will just give some information. Just want to how this thing. So in here, now in this access token, you should see uh, like this. So you're getting a JSON string, a long string, and that is converted into my values, which we can use in the next set of activities. So the next thing, now we have the access, and now what we need to do is we just need to create the item in the queue. So again, to create an item in the queue, we basically have another structure that we need to follow to add an item. So in our case, so as you know, how we refer to the items in the queue is by specific content. Remember, after using the get transaction item activity in the workflow. So that's what we are building. In this structure, we are saying the item data for the queue is under name, you have the queue name, and under priority, you have the priority of the item, and under specific content, you basically say the value that you want to provide and its data type. So for each and every value, we need to provide the data type. So you can see for the first name, this is the value part. And for the data type, it has to be first name at odata.type. And here we'll be passing the data type. So again, you can use the same structure to build our the request structure. So let's do that. So I'll be copying this now. So how you build the structure is actually by create JSON. We have this, and we will click on the plus sign, JSON, create JSON, add. For this one, I can say, I will give a name like create new item for bankers, and instead of specifying each and everything, click on generate, paste the queue over here. So don't worry about the values that we are here. We'll be providing the actual values. It's just the structure. So click on save, and you can see all that information is created. The name, priority, specific content, and all the items like that. So it's easy. And just click on save. We have all the values of the entire structure. Click on OK for now. Rename it. You can say create new item. And now what we need to do is we just need to provide the values to those fields. So let's click on this one. The name of the queue. Go to the orchestrator, queues. This is the name, anchors queue. And copy that and paste it over here. The priority you can say normal or high or whatever you want to use. Right. Now is the time to use our attributes that we got. So for the first name, we need to use the value that we are getting from the first name attribute. So let's click on that. And the data type, this is usually string. So we'll just type string here. And the last name, let's provide the last name. And again, it's a string. So basically, we'll be use string for all the data types. The city is this one. Phone number, age, number of dependents, NOD. We'll just and that's it. We have built the structure, up the data, and we are good to go. Click on OK. Yep. So now we have the structure. The next thing is to actually create another request to create this item in the queue. So what you need to do is come plus and use another HTTP TP make a request. And this time we need to provide the URL, which is again well in the article. So in the URL, if you see, there's something interesting. You basically need to provide the logical name, the tenant name. And this is the add queue item API call. So use this information by getting it from the orchestrator URL. The URL here, and for the account logical name, you need to go here after cloud.uipart.com. This part is actually a it over, and the tenant name is the one after that. So in my case, it's same. So I'll be have it, and this time instead of get, we also need to do another post because we are sending some information to do something. Let's keep it as post, and just like before. So earlier we got the authentication. Basically, just think of it as we logged in, and now we need to provide that authentication information back to orchestrator to ensure that you are already verified and you are already in. And along with that, we also need to provide the tenant name, just like before, and the folder name where this queue is located, or the folder ID. So let's see how we can do that. So we need to provide headers. Click on this. The first one is just type the name as authorization, and the value has to you basically need to type error space and the access to this part. Just click on this access to get the value from. Okay, so you have that information. Yeah, so it's coming from this. So basically, this is why we did that parsing over here so that we can easily access that information. So authorization is done. The next one is providing the tenant name. Just like before, I need to type by path tenant name. And the tenant name is what we see over here. So let me copy it and paste it. Add. The next one is the content type, just like before. Quickly add it. And this is JSON. And lastly, we need to provide the folder ID. So the folder ID is actually referred as organization unit type. That the name for that is just like we did for the tenant name. We need to say X by path dash organization unit ID. So in here, O is capital, U is capital, and let's see what the folder ID is. We can find it from the orchestrator. So I'm in this demo folder, and in this URL, let's see the folder. So here you can see FID. This is my folder ID. Let's copy that, paste it over, right? And then again, just like before, the body type is raw, type is application JSON. The request content is coming from this create queue item request, the seventh one. Here we go, 7 JSON string, and that's it. Let's click on OK, and we have done it. So, um, lastly, so this will also give us some output that says whether it's successful or not. So we'll try to capture that information basically and return it back to our SnatchBot. So if it is successful, we can say we can provide a message saying that your information is successfully submitted, something like that. So again, to send the data back to SnatchBot, it is also expecting the data in a specific format. The simplest format is this structure. The user ID, bot ID, module ID, this is already provided by the SmashBot. The message, what we want to show in the chat. Let's build another data structure with this. Copying this one, add JSON, create JSON, and this one can be add. This is my final response. And generate and provide the JSON string over here so that it will fit for you. Because so I'm not going to check whether this is successful or not. You can actually do that by using different activities. So just keep it simple. Yeah. So let's assume this will always be successful. In this one, let's provide the user. So that is actually coming from the very first one, the webhook, custom web. All that information is provided to you. ID, what I that is also here. The module ID is also, and the message what you want to show. So basically, we can say when this action is complete. So basically, you're submitting some information, and the process will run separately. It will not return anything back to you. So you can say your information is submitted. You will get some details to your email or something. So let's is submitted. You will receive email. Account is created. Yep. So this can be our simple message that we want to provide to the user. And let's click on OK. Now, lastly, how to send this data back to SnatchBot is actually by using a simple activity. So under webhooks, we have another action, webhook response. That's what we need to use here. Earlier we used custom webhook. This time we are using the response. I'm dragging it over here. So keep the status code as 200 characters, and the body has to be the output that's returned using this uh, JSON string. So I can say just rename it JSON final response. In here, I will just click on the body. This is the JSON string. And let's click on OK. Alright, so I think we have completed the workflow over here. So let's actually run it and see how this thing works. So I will just click on run. Oh, I will just save it first. You can also provide a name over here. Gate item. Save it and run. Okay, so it's waiting, and go here, refresh, start doing some. City is just type some here. Email address, age, on. We have all the information. Let's click on yes. Let's see what happens. Yeah, and now you can see the message. Your information is successfully submitted. You will receive an email. Account is created. And you can see the process is actually run. Yeah, so it automatically started. Yeah, so basically some stuff didn't update over here, but that's fine. It's the UiPath workflow, but you get the idea that this is how it works. So let's check the orchestrator as well quickly. Where's my browser? Yep. And over here in the bankers queue, let's click refresh, view transactions, and here we have the transaction. Yeah, so it got retried because I was kind of moving my mouse and everything. But you see how it works, right? This is our same information that we provide. Yeah, so that is how actually we can easily build a webhook with an API call without writing a single line of code, basically, to build our flow over here, to integrate different platforms with UiPath. So let's quickly have a look in this before we wrap up. So you can see everything is successful and see the response. You can see status code 201. Everything is good. And we see the output over here, and that is what is responded. Cool. So if anything goes wrong, it will basically throw an error and it will be passed. The output will look in this. You can configure that according to doing it. And also, if you check the orchestrator, this thing actually started just a while ago. Yeah, 2 minutes ago. Yep. So that's it. And the other thing, so this we actually manually started it by clicking on this part. But you can actually schedule it so that you don't manually need to start this part of the integration. So that can be done by enabling this schedule. You can say immediate. And once this is activated, you can always use it and you don't need to manually start. And if you go back to scenarios, you can see on and it is active. Yeah, so you can see it says the scenario will start immediately when the specified event happens. The event is that wait that we all know. Okay, so before wrapping up, I would also like to show one more thing that is about publishing this chatbot. So in SmashBot, this is the workflow. So if you go to these channels, so it is available once you're in the editor. So go to channels and we can decide which option we want to pick to publish our chatbot. For each option, there is a different way of configuring it to get it published. But the easiest is the web chat. So in here, select it and go to get embedded code under the second option. This is the URL. We can easily get this URL and share it anywhere we want so that we can use it easily. So as you see, I copied the URL over here and I just need to click on get started and your chatbot is already available for you. So it's easy. Cool. So it's a kind of a long video, but I hope this is very interesting. So my main goal was actually to show you how to build this integration between different chatbot platforms, connect it with UiPath processors easily without writing a single line of code. So only thing that you need to know is about the basic structure of JSON, how we can view. So that's what we were focusing on. Cool. So thank you very much for listening and just refer to the article done by Juveria. That will be very much helpful to get the concepts around this along with the video. So in this video, what we did is just to summarize, created an item in the queue which triggered a process automatically, UiPath. And in the next video, what I'm going to show you is in the next couple of videos. So this is one scenario. In the next video, I would like to see how to get the response from the process into the chat message saying that something happened and this is your output. So let's see how we can do those kind of stuff as well. This is the first part. Stay tuned. We'll see you soon.